Thing in progress.
Hello, welcome to Let the Story Write Itself, episode. Good grief. What episode are we on? I think it's 17. And today I want to focus on an idea that just came to my mind. And this is how I allow ideas through that sometimes I'll just be doing something else. And then suddenly I'm like, you know what? This is something that I feel like I could talk on for a bit. And then I will say, let me just record an episode right now. So I'm a manifesting generator in human design. And I just learned that like in early 2023. And since then, I'm like, oh, well, now I have like a definitive way to explain why I tend to do things a certain way. And this is the way that I've always tended to do things, where I tend to just hop around from one thing to another. And there's not really like a structure or a specific set time that I do things, because a lot of times things happen spontaneously or just on the spot. And a lot of times I have to just hop into that like a bunny rabbit. Like I'm also a rabbit in the Chinese zodiac sign, in Chinese horoscope. So I definitely am not someone who can do things very methodically, so to speak. I'm always like it's like a popcorn style going on in my mind, where I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna, if I get an idea to do something, I'm gonna do it then and there. Or at least that's the way that things tend to flow for me if I'm not trying to constrict that flow or control it in some way, but rather let it arise and unfold as it is in the moment. And so, a lot of times I don't have to plan for ideas. I don't have to sit down and purposely try to create something, because I'm kind of just creating as I'm going about the day, as I'm just living. I'll just get ideas here and there. And I've learned how to capture it almost like drops into a bucket, just say you have like drops, and if they're just going like into the drain and like the sink, and then what's the point of that? It's like if you have some kind of a container or a bucket to actually capture all these little drops, then over time it accumulates, and you know, there's a popular word in self-development, it's called stacking, where it's like all of these collect. So the word I would use is like it collects, like all the drips and the drops that you collect over time. It becomes like a body of work, and it becomes like a pattern. You notice like, oh, this tends to be the predominant thing that I tend to focus on or talk about, or that these ideas tend to come to me more often than not. And suddenly, when you have like a bucket of water, that becomes like an actual energy, like actual force of energy. Like you can actually do something with that bucket of water, whereas it's just a collection of drops, right? It's a collection of drops. So you could very well be like, oh, it's just a drop. But every drop adds up to something more powerful over time. It's like the whole is greater than the parts kind of thing. And or like the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. You know what? Even when I turned on this recording, I suddenly like even just the things like what started coming out of my mouth. It was actually different than what I initially turned on this recording for, which I feel like I'm actually going to get to as I segue into the actual thing that I started this recording for, or what prompted me to be like, oh, let me just record an episode right now. And then as I press record, suddenly what came out of my mouth was going on this tangent of like collecting the drops in the bucket, and like, oh, suddenly I didn't know I was going to say that I didn't plan to start recording. I just started recording like out of the blue. And a lot of times that's where there's also this philosophy, do nothing, accomplish everything. And it was like 2014 where it was like this state of allowing that was really becoming more prevalent in my life. Obviously, I had really already done Vipassana, and I was really getting more into the state of, I call it like a hippie mode. Like I was really going like, you know, just very much, it's almost like the yin and the yang. It's like the seeing things, it's like those illusion, like what those illusion pictures, where it's like if you see it one way and then suddenly if you train your mind to see it the complete opposite, like flip it around, and then suddenly like, oh, whoa, the exact same image, but you saw it in a completely new way, or like a new direction, or it's like flipped or reversed in some way. You know what those, what's it called, like those illusion pictures? And it's kind of like that. It's like your mind kind of shifts from one way of thinking to a complete other. So I guess when I had really started shifting from the zone of like employment, education, and like that more what I call hard-edged, like judgment, like scheduled, like very logically practical oriented type of way, to really embracing and harnessing that other way of being, which was more allowing, perceiving, flowing, and not really trying to make anything happen or think that things have to happen to another way. It was like almost like this illusion shift, like this perception shift. And it was like shifting into a different gear, a different mode, a different way of being. And so even as what was I saying? So it's like one of those where I'm not trying to make anything happen. So do nothing, accomplish everything. It sounds like a paradox. And I was like really drawn to that motto in like 2014. It's like, oh my gosh, this is exactly right. It's like I don't have to do anything, yet like somehow everything over like unfolds itself. Like everything comes to be, like comes to fruition as it should be. And it really speaks to like the higher order in the universe, where I do and believe and have experienced where there's certain like divine timing and certain way that things converge in a sense, and you are a part of that coordination. And sometimes I'm like, oh, how do I come to be here at this time? And it's just kind of like a right place, right time kind of feeling. And it's also this idea that a lot of things that actually happen in life, you're like, how did that even happen? Like, I didn't even think about it. I didn't consciously plan for it. A lot of the things I don't consciously plan for that unfold, those are actually the more meaningful experiences of my life, right? Than the ones that you think you somehow made happen. You're like, not most of the place, like the jobs or this and education that I did, I wasn't thinking like, wow, this is so magical. There was maybe like one or two jobs, or even just like the way that when I was in that time of my life where I was cycling through various employment, the way I did it was in such a way that I was allowing intuition to lead. A lot of the times I'd be like, oh, interesting, I'm going to go here now, I'm going to go there. And the places that I did end up going, sometimes there was like a feeling of magic to it. It's like, oh, how did I get led to that place? Or something just lit up for me. Like the actual, like I think I applied to way more places than I actually ended up working at. And I always found like I noticed this pattern, like the places that I end up actually connecting with or that I actually have like get employment there or something, or versus all the ones that I kind of prior to applying somewhere, I'd be like thinking like all these things in my head. I'm like, and this like separates the logical part from that intuitive part, where sometimes I would be thinking something like, oh wow, really hope I get this one place, or this is the one I really want, right? But then it doesn't actually unfold. But then when you look back in hindsight, or even as you kind of go through the story, you're like, oh, but actually, you know what, somehow this it shows you that there's like more happening than you see on the surface. It's like there's a vibrational energy, and there's also something to be said for what you're called to, like that phrase, what you seek seeks you, like Rumi. So it's like everything that your soul is looking to experience or that it needs to grow in some way is what is like the more true aspect of your story and the aspects of it than the things that in your logical mind you're like, oh, this and that. And so I've always found that to be true, that when you simply like do nothing, accomplish, and well, everything seems to accomplish itself somehow. The things that don't seem that you're not even necessarily thinking about become more real, and the things that you thought were real are actually not as real as your mind made them to seem. So it's almost like this illusion, like this illusionary picture that you kind of just see in different ways at different times, or depending on your perception of it. And so this is something that I've noticed, like especially from all that job hopping in my early 20s, especially fresh out of university, where I would be like, oh, like I just went on all these adventures. And like I mentioned, I applied to way more places than actually how like I would actually be. Obviously, I'm a person, I can't be in more places than one. And also, obviously, you know, you're going to get like a handful of experiences versus maybe the the more numerous ones that you're thinking about. So it's interesting how life is going to be a handful of experiences, but you in your head, you could be like doing a lot more, or like what am I trying to say? Okay, I'm going to give it the analogy of like, just say you send out like 100 resumes, or you apply to all these different places, or you make all these different calls. But obviously, in the human time frame and the experience, you're going to be, once you click with something, or just say something actually connects, and you're like, okay, I'm going to move forward with this one. So even though you apply to like 100 different places, you actually only gonna, what shows like what actually transpires, that you end up working in place, even if it's just like a few months. Obviously, those 100 places you apply to, it's like what actually happens, like the result is like, okay, so then, if I'm looking at back the story, I'm like, okay, I worked at this place from this date to this date. But then behind the scenes, like, but I actually applied to like say hundreds of these places prior to getting that one place. So it's interesting how like everything that happens behind the scenes, it feels like it feels like you live so much more than say what actually goes on like in the on the face of it, right? Because at the end of the day, you're like, oh, I worship from this to that. But no one really knows the story behind everything that happened behind that. And it's interesting also because sometimes the place that I actually end up at, it's as I was saying, it's like sometimes I look back, I'm like, oh, if I think of all the hundreds of places that I applied to, sometimes I'll be like, wow, interesting. I remember all these different um, conversations or places or ideas and thoughts and whatever's that were going on depending on whatever place that I had applied to. But then so it feels like there's a lot more going on in your head than is visible to the surface, if that makes sense. Like you ever notice that like sometimes you just obviously, everyone obviously has knows more about their own life story than can ever just be seen at like on the surface. If you just look at what was that saying? It's like everyone is like has a whole life of their own that like you can never actually know about just looking from the surface or as an outsider, right? Because you don't know everything that happened or be behind that one thing or you know just because like it's like if you see a resume or something, it's like this is the end product. This is like the result of it. This is like what's shown on the surface. This is what happened, transpired in the physical realm. But what like happened behind that, it's a whole different story. And so, a lot of times I've noticed this interesting pattern because it's it's this idea that like when you look back at the entirety of your life, you're going to notice maybe the certain like a few different things. Like you're gonna see, I think there's like how should I put this? The public side and then the private side. So when I say private, public, it's like the side that obviously you can see. It's like you can be like, okay, tangibly and factually, it's like, okay, I worked here from this date to this date. And from like, it's like, okay, imagine your life as a resume. If you were to at the end of your life had a resume and it's like a very clear cut. So it's like really no disputing, okay? If you worked here at a certain place, which is a very clear cut thing from this date to this date, then that would be like a resume thing, right? It's like it's not like like you're not going to put like I applied to hundreds of these places, I went to all these different things, I did this and this and that, and these are the thoughts I was having as I was going to each one, and then I was actually hoping for this place, but then this happened and maybe somehow this one led to me to this. You're not writing all of that stuff on your resume, right? That's not what you're showing. So that would be almost like the private side of it. So imagine like how much of that private side is not actually shown on a resume. And when I'm talking about resume, it's like imagine it's like your whole life story shown on paper, like at the end of your life. And it's like the things that you really can be like, okay, like for me, it's just if I were to write up like, okay, from this date to this date, I attended university. And I could be like, I completed that degree, I got a degree, and I got an undergraduate degree type of thing. And then I could be like, okay, and then from this date to this date, I was at this place of employment from this date to this date. I could put it in Vipassana and be like, oh, I took a 10-day Vipassana meditation retreat. I could be like, okay, from this date to this date, I traveled from, I was in whatever part of the world or whatever. So a lot of times the things that you put on your resume are more forward facing, like public things that are very defined, very tangible things that you can actually put into like a visceral, visceral is not the right word, that you can actually put into like a summarized one line thing, like, okay, this. And then there's also the private side, which, I feel like that's where a lot more of the intuitive part of it plays out. It's like, what were all the different ways that what led you to make certain choices? What made you take certain actions over certain other ones? What thoughts were you having behind like as this was all going on? Like what were your thoughts? What were the um whether perceived or imaginary or just like all the different things that occur behind the scenes. Like that, I think is the juice. Like that is where a lot of the meat of your own story comes in, where this is the part that I really delve into. It's like that intuition. It's behind the story because the story is like what transpires on the surface, right? What you can see on a resume, but where I delve into is the stuff behind the scenes. It's like the private part of you. It's like, what are thoughts that you're having? What were the beliefs that you had? What were the actions that you took? What were the decisions that you had made, whether consciously or not, or behind the scenes, or that led you to one action versus another? And those are the things that really show, one, I guess, who you are as a person, but two, also how you're operating and how that actually, in a way, brings about the results that you have. So it's really deep diving into those particulars. It's like lifting the hood and looking inside the engine. And it's interesting because, the phrase do nothing, accomplish everything. In a sense, it's that when you hold that certain trust that what will transpire, then you're able to let go of a need for a certain outcome because to you, what's more important is that journey. And it's this idea that sometimes you don't know what you don't know at the time that you don't know. So, how can you plan for something, right? How can you actually leave that openness and that possibility for something to happen? And that's where you need to go into your intuition. That's where you allow for intuition to lead you. And so when I was going in that time of my life where I was going from all this, I had all these different mini adventures, right? Even while I was cycling through different jobs, like I would never just stay in one place for like a long period of time because I'd be like, oh, well, now intuition is pulling me here or here. Events would transpire that would lead me from one place to another to another. And so I just cycled through like 16 various different jobs in like a matter of like 2 years, right? And it's like I just crammed a huge amount of work experience and life experience and even just job experience essentially into a very short period of time, especially as someone who had never, say, had a job like while when I was younger or anything. So during that period of time, it's really this idea of allowing intuition to lead me rather than thinking, oh, I need to do this. And because I had that connection with that pattern, it was like, oh, interestingly enough, when I was applying somewhere, I was thinking about things like, oh, this would be this and this and that. It didn't really pan out to be that true, or even like sometimes it wouldn't pan out the way that I would think it would. And the things that I would actually connect with, a lot of times they were from an intuitive part of me. So the places that I did apply to, they didn't really make sense. Like a lot of the places I applied to had nothing to do with my degree. I, in a many ways, had already just chucked the degree out of my mind and was like, I'm starting like from scratch again. It's like because the degree did not feel aligned for me in the first place. So I didn't want to continue that falsity in a sense and be like, okay, well, I'm going to put myself into a box that I never wanted to be in the first place. So in many ways, even though I was like, had already completed a degree and was like now in this place of seeking for employment, a lot of this employment I could have just done out of high school and wouldn't need a degree for it. Although in some ways, like having a degree would make people feel like, especially more what you call it, administrative positions, they would feel like, oh, well, okay, great. I would rather hire you over like someone who's just out of high school, right? Which I don't really feel has much merit, but that's a different topic of conversation. So essentially what I'm trying to say is that I really threw the rule book out of the window because I was like, I'm essentially just feeling like I'm starting again. Like I'm starting from scratch. Like I'm not trying to box myself into any one thing. So I was really going through this phase of exploration and experimentation. And I allowed myself to just be guided by what I was feeling and pulling into being pulled to. And so that led me to almost like a 2 year journey just out of university where I was just, you know, putting myself out there in many ways and in terms of resume and, seeking employment and with employers and all that. And I was also then, there's that space of intuition where I always allowed intuition to seep in and to come through as to like what do I actually feel called to right now? And that led me to like various different even industries, I'd be like working in a greenhouse versus I'd be working in a bakery. Then I did like some, I was working in like a dental office and then I was working in um like just like that's how different and varied they were essentially. And then at some point I started being like cycling out of that more like I realized that I didn't like being confined to a very strict schedule. And so I started moving like freewheeling more into like freelance and then even like door-to-door sales and then almost like this need to just be able to express myself more um, as a leader and even just like as an entrepreneur. So like even like the door-to-door sales, even though it's more like a freelance contractor. So you have like the business has already been built in a sense for you. It's like you would have to almost operate as if you're an entrepreneur. So that was very much, so it's just like it was almost like leading me towards more of who I actually am at core at truth. And that really stemmed from the fact that I allowed myself to like be a beginner again. I wasn't thinking, oh, I have this degree, I have to use it in the way that it should be used, or I have to go and get some job that would reflect the fact that I have this degree. Because I was really like allowing my intuition to lead and allowing what I actually felt to be at the forefront. And so somehow along the way, I had gone to Vipassana and then I started becoming more entrepreneurial. And then I started extricating myself a little bit more from that idea of education versus employment. And then that led me to world travel. Well, that led me to like a private college program that was for life coaching that then led me to world travel. And I, yeah, so somehow like all these things kind of just unfolded and happened like without me necessarily planning for it. And I was like, what if I had just done that when I was 17? When I got the call, like go travel. And instead of thinking, how am I going to do it? I just allow myself to follow my intuition. Okay, just withdraw from this university program that you don't even have a pull or inclination for anyway. And then just allow whatever the next thing is that you're being called to happen. And then allow that to call you to the next thing. And then just let life unfold, right? It's just that feeling of alignment and allowing intuition to decide for you. And that's how you let light you do nothing and accomplish everything. So not that you literally do nothing, it's that you're not making it seem like you have to do something, meaning like you're that in your mind you're not the one who's going to make the decision. In that sense, like you're allowing your higher self to guide you and then taking action from that state of being called or aligned or connected. And so in that state of being, somehow things just kind of accomplish themselves. I can be like, I connected with meditation. I became more true to myself in terms of what kind of my working style, which is very much more freewheeling and entrepreneurial and being leading myself in a way. And also having that time and location independence. So now I'm like living around the world and I've been to more than 55 countries, most of them solo. Um, and it's not like a vacation type thing. I'm not just like, oh, I'm going on vacation. It's literally just a way of life and a lifestyle. So like somehow I'm living the life that I already feel very at home in. Like I feel like, yeah, this is just a natural inclination, which is like a 180 from, say, the university experience or the hopping from one job to another or living in that more structured lifestyle where it's also this flipping me at like seeing that photo, that illusion photo, where instead of seeing it one way, it's kind of like almost seeing it from the other side. It's almost like being on the flip side of the mirror. One of those mirrors like you can see on both sides. Imagine being like on one side of the mirror and then being able to see it from the other side, and you're like, oh, interesting. So when I'm on this side now, I'm like, wow, how did I ever like box myself so in to feel like I had to do things a certain way or that things were a certain way? Because I feel like my mind is just so expanded now, or it's just so like open, or it operates in a completely different fashion than it once did. And even then, it's like I wouldn't say it operated in a completely, because obviously there were calls to that the way that my mind would naturally work anyway. But because I was not necessarily living out fully, I was kind of listening more to the outside or the external or the existing ways of being. So I was not listening to myself or acting on that, or at least I didn't at the time when I was 17. So even though I was still getting the call for it, like go travel, I didn't necessarily allow or make space for that. But once you make space for it, you you somehow everything that you is like in your heart or that is calling you, you feel a certain gravitational pull or that feeling of connection, or like, when you're not doing the thing that you're meant to do, there's always that feeling calling you. And that's where that certain piece of you're missing something or that hollowness or that feeling of distress comes in, because it's like that contrast. It's like that piece of you that is calling you to align. And if you're not doing that, it's going to constantly call you. So once I started listening to it, it was like the voice could settle more in myself, and like I was more at peace. And I was like, okay, I'm in alignment right now. That's what essentially is synonymous with being at peace with yourself. And wow, okay. So when I decided to record this podcast, I was actually in my mind, is this one piece of that I wanted to share, which is that when you don't allow yourself to go with what you're being called to, that means that you're contracting. You're not allowing yourself to expand. And this actually is really, really not good for your energy because your energy thrives on expansion. It thrives on becoming the next level of yourself. It's always wanting to grow and evolve and become more and more and go to the next thing, like experience more of life. And stay in that place of being, you could call it in the vortex. If you listen to Abraham Hicks, it's like this law of attraction. It's this feeling of like being in that high energetic state. That's your natural state. And that's where your inner self is always calling you to. It's that feeling of being in the zone. It's being in the right time at the right place at the right time. It's that feeling of doing nothing yet you're accomplishing everything that you never even logically thought of or to make happen, and somehow you're just living it. And as I'm just recording this, I'm in the Philippines. I'm just kind of here for the month. I'm not really bound to any particular place or time or thing. And this is just feels like, how did this lifestyle kind of just show up in my life, which is like a complete 180 from when I was 17, going to university and then thinking how to find certain employment or get in the right career, or trying to just do things that were just felt like it never really felt right for me. And then somehow now fast forward, what is it now, 17, I'm 37 now, and it's like, wow, how did I've been to more than 55 countries now. So that inner voice that was telling me go travel at 17, it somehow already knew. It knew what is like would it transpire. And then if I just did that at 17, think how much earlier I could have done it. Think how much quicker. Think how much more in flow and alignment I would do it if I just knew how to do it. Not knew how to do it, but like knew how, like if I was in alignment with my inner self more often, or at least at that time, that I could just allow myself to be in that energetic state of flow and allowing and abundance rather than almost holding that at bay. So this is what I mean by you have to flow with what your inner being is calling you to at any given point, because at 17 it was calling me already. It was calling me go travel. So that was already in my vortex. That was already something that, whether consciously or unconsciously, just by, there's this idea that you don't have to consciously know or think about something because your inner being is always deciding everything. It's already like present and aware and witnessing everything and keeping note of everything that you truly love and desire. It's like your private note taker in a sense, and is in a sense it's just like your energetic frequency and your match for what you are aligned with already, what you came to the world to do. It's like it was almost like your blueprint. It's your birthright in a way. It's like before you were born, your soul already has certain energy and like an idea of what it is that it wants to experience in life in the physical realm. And so when you're holding that at bay, or you're not necessarily cognizant of that connection, that's really where you can experience that struggle in the physical realm because you're not in alignment with your non-physical, like larger part of yourself, the spiritual aspect. And this has really become less of like I'm not like I have like firsthand experience of it, which is totally different than if you're just listening and you're thinking of it like in a very intellectual, like analytical way, and maybe you can understand it in some level, but you haven't actually experienced it on a visceral level, or even just through that embodied experience. So now it's like, well, duh, it's like completely seeing the illusion from like from a 180 perspective and seeing it like reversed, and you're like, oh, it just clicks now, okay, that makes sense. Whereas I remember when I was like maybe still in that stage of still like reading what color's your parachute, and like I need to go to a guidance counselor and I need to find out what the career is for me and whatnot, maybe I need to go back to school and blah 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 blah. When I was still in that head zone, I was just like, it just doesn't, like I was not even connected to that inner self in that sense, that inner spirit, what was pulling me, that intuition. Even though it was always speaking to me, I wasn't necessarily grounded in my body to able to actually be pulled by it in a sense, to even align with it, to allow it in so that I can get into that state of flow. And this has always happened. So even, you know, when I was in 24 and then I had moved to Vancouver, and then I was like, okay, I'm just going to like, live in a different city on my own now. And then I had felt accomplished in a way because I'm like, wow, I just had like 16 different jobs in less than 2 years. I have done all sorts of things from door to door sales to, working in offices to doing like even trying baking and stuff such. And I had just done a lot of different things, right? And had a lot of experiences and job experiences and putting myself out there and connecting and whatnot with the outside world outside of school. And I also had learned how to drive, and I wasn't being driven everywhere now. I had also done some solo trips on my own, and I'd done like the 10-day Vipassana retreats, and also had done like a group psychotherapy, like just out of university, which was like a 16-week program. So that was also quite an experiential experience. So it's just like all these like experiences that really add to who you are over time. So and obviously I had completed my bachelor's degree and whatnot. So there were just a lot of things I felt. I'm like 24 and I'm like, okay, I feel quite accomplished, right? I feel quite like I have done quite a lot of things. And I was like, I had this one thought. I was like, you can't just rest on your laurels though. It's like I'm only in my 20s. Like there's still so much of life. Like, what does this mean? Like, what else is there? Like, will I just do the same thing over and over now or something? And it was like this clear idea. I'm like, no, there's always more to come and there's always more to grow into. And I had this idea that I'm like, actually, I haven't done that much. You can also see it as like, okay, yes, you can be happy and celebrate the things that you have accomplished, or you don't rest on your laurels and be like, okay, I'm just done. I'm just gonna coast now or something, because there's always more calling you. And think about it, at this time, I had already felt like quite accomplished, but yet I hadn't even gone around the world. I hadn't even really made my first like six figures or anything, or had that idea of concept of like becoming more wealthy. I hadn't even purchased my own first property or something on my own, right? So a lot of these things that were to come had not even come yet, and yet I had already felt so accomplished. So it's interesting how every stage you're going to feel like you're going to feel both simultaneously accomplished, but you're also going to hopefully you're going to feel like there's still so much more to come and that there's still so much more you can grow into. So I do remember feeling this when I was like in my 20s. I was like, in a way, I've already accomplished a lot, but also in a way, I haven't really accomplished that much. So it was like this paradox. It was like this feeling of I need to allow myself to constantly be open to what is next, because that is how you grow. You don't just coast or remain on your laurels. And then that's where I think I had been like, I think, that's where I started becoming a lot more fit. I would just still allow myself to be in that zone of like, what's calling me now? What's calling me now? And it's like that do nothing, accomplish everything, where you don't have to do anything per se, but you do have to remain open to your inner spirit and what it's guiding you to, and what you feel excited by, what you feel lit up by, what you feel activated by, what is calling you essentially at this time. Are those very things that your inner soul is always speaking to you. So even though I wasn't um, in school, and I was also more experienced in the working world at this point, and I was in my 20s, and now I'm like living on my own, and I'm not necessarily being driven around anywhere. I'm like a lot more, autonomous in a sense. I, still have things that I'm being called to. And now I'm 37 and I'm still being called to things, in fact. And I just started recording this podcast in earlier this year. That's not to say like when I was younger, I always had this feeling like I should write a book. I want to speak. I want to do all these things. Like I've actually had these ideas for a long time, but when you actually do them might not be the time that you actually think about them for whatever reason, if you're not able to sync up with that energy or allow yourself to flow in that way. So there is always more that you're always being guided to. And I think too, when I was getting that call, like go take that one-way train to Toronto when I was in Vancouver and just kind of living life. And it's calling me to this adventure, to this one-way travel, to this unknown. If I hadn't taken that, I would not have grown, expanded into my new level self, which is totally much more in that place of trusting and surrendering and just being. And allowing the universe to essentially plan for me and guide me in that sense. And that led me to around the world travels. And then when I was in Toronto and I got that next level call to take one-way plane to Spain, and then now also having to in a way ascend to like the next level, like allow myself to expand it even more, which felt like a scarier decision. Okay, now I have to go international. There's a little bit more preparation. There's also a little bit more feeling of a foreign feeling that requires you to grow a little bit more in your confidence and your self-assuredness and your feeling of independence, that you can do things that feel unfamiliar or that are different or that you haven't done before. So at this point, I had not done any of those things. This was back in early 2016 now. I had not gone on a, I had not done a lot of things that now feel very easy to me. They're almost second nature. And that's where that new expansion comes on. Because I could be like, I've been to more than 55 countries now at 37, and many of them solo around the world, like literally just staying on my own, different places here and there. And, all the things you have to do like in the back end or behind the scenes that actually allow that, as I was saying, all the behind the scenes things that are behind like the actual forward facing, like the front stuff that you can actually tangibly say like, okay, I'm in Philippines for the month, or last month I was just in Indonesia or whatnot. And just this lifestyle that I'm living, it's like, okay, these are the key things that I could present and be like, okay, this, and it's like factual in a sense. It's like, okay, this is a tangible physical representation, but what were all the things behind it? What was like the story behind it, the private side of it, the things that you don't see that are more in that intuitive realm of like, what were your thoughts? What were the processes? What were the choices you made? The action steps, the thinking, the beliefs, the whatever, like all that stuff behind the scenes that I was talking about earlier that leads to the physical outcome or the representation, and even the things that maybe you didn't even know like how it unfolds. So it's like a surprise to you too, in a sense, like not like a surprise, but like it's like how it differs maybe sometimes from the logical law you can have. So sometimes it's like that inner world that is more true, and when it aligns in the physical world, you're like, yes, this is the one. Even though prior to all that, like all the shifting pieces and moving variables and this and that that's happening behind the scenes, sometimes it's like, how is it going to shake out? How is it going to play out? And one thing that you might be thinking, the thing you might be thinking is not the thing that actually transpires. And that's to me like where the juice of life is, that you're like, ah, interesting. Interesting. It shows like that there's sometimes a little bit of that getting on point between what's really the truth versus what your mind is sometimes. So that's why I always say like your mind is like is not the leader. You like in a way, your heart, your soul, your inner compass is the guidance system. And that's keep that as the forefront. That is the one that should be directing you. A lot of times the thoughts that you have are not necessarily in that real, it's like that illusionary state. It's like that feeling of like, oh, interesting. When you see it from a different perspective, or you see things in hindsight, you're like, oh, I should have known, I knew it. When you say things like I knew it, it's because you had that inner compass. That inner compass is guiding you at all times. So anyway, so it's about expansion as well, because even now I could be like, it's the same thing. At 24, I thought I've accomplished quite a bit. Even at 28, when I had actually gone on the around the world's travel, I was like, wow, I've actually accomplished a lot of things. And interestingly, I had that experience of when I was in my early 20s, and I was like, wow, that's also quite different than when I was still in university or just like doing different employment and such. And so every stage of your life, whether, whatever time frame you count that in, day to day, month to month, year to year, decades, whatever, there's always something that you look back to a previous point in time and you're like, wow, how, like, you realize how much has transpired in that sense. And for me, it's like I'm always thinking like, what I want, like I'm 37, so I feel like that's still quite young. It's quite young in the sense that, yeah, I still feel quite young. 37 to me is a very young age. And that's interesting because when I was like 22, I would not have thought of that. When I was 25, I would not have thought that. Even when I was like approaching 30, I would not have thought that 37, I'd be like, I would not really think that as like a young age. Like in the sense, like I would be like, whoa, that's like a long way away. But now that I am 37, I'm actually like, no, this is actually still very young. and and so it's like just like your perspective is always changing, or it's always like expanding in some way. It's always, you're always seeing things from a new perspective. And even now I'm thinking, okay, there's still so much more that I can grow into. So on the surface, I'm not like resting on my laurels. I'm not just being like, okay, whatever, I can just coast. I'm just coasting. I'm just doing the same thing that I'm always doing, because that starts to feel uncomfortable after some time. I can say that I'm in this zone where simply just living around the world and having this, in a sense, like a bit of location and time freedom, and not necessarily having to go to like a conventional type of schooling or these type of things. I like, even though I'm no longer in that state of confusion that I once was when I was like like at 17 and not listening to my inner self. I there's it's like I'm always being called to more. So it's like the state of, okay, yes, I've accomplished a lot, I've lived a lot, I've experienced a lot, I'm in the flow, and yet there's still more, because your inner being is constantly growing, and everything that you experience, like think of how many, like I've had like literally probably millions of like moments and around like places like in the past decade. Just think of everything that you've ever experienced that you may, whether you're paying attention or not, your inner self is keeping track of that. And it also has its own like timeline. It also has its own journey, like since before you were born. It's like that soul piece, that it's like written in the stars kind of thing. That idea that if you do nothing, accomplish everything, because your soul is always has like an inner directional GPS and like directional pull, that it's is that forward moving momentum. So every time you say yes and you expand to your next level self, you are then able to see the next part of it and be like, okay, I'm being called to something else right now. And it's that ability to say yes and to expand again and again and again, where that's where the change, like the motion happens, that motion where over time when you look back, you're like, wow, how did that happen? How did I get here? And like, the things that I was once thinking or dreaming of or thinking seemed more like a vague like idea in my head, suddenly it's like just reality now. And that's where do nothing, accomplish everything, because in a few years time you're going to be like, how did this happen, how did this unfold? Wow. It was just by way of listening to my intuition, by going to where I was feel called to more, and like expanding myself each time along the way, and not just resting on my laurels. And that's really where the in between happens, that leads to the resume stuff, right? The resume being the forward facing, the front stuff that you present and that you show, and that you can be like logic, like more tangible, visceral type of, okay, this is what transpired in the physical realm that people can actually see. It's like, okay, this is the reality, versus all that stuff behind the scenes and the journey essentially that transpires on the way there. So it's really an idea that the expansion happens in the behind the scenes, in the between, in the private spaces, and the what's going on in the day-to-days, and the moments and the choices and thoughts and decisions and the intuitive pulls, that over time, you look back, and that you can even check on your resume of life and just be like, wow, interesting. So it's just a food for thought of where in your life are you allowing yourself to grow and evolve to your next level self? What are you already happy and celebrating that you've already accomplished in life, and that you're not necessarily resting on your laurels, because you know that there's still more that you're being called to, that there's always stuff that you're feeling excited by. And the things that you were once excited by are actually maybe not even that activating anymore. They don't have that same emotional charge, because they're just kind of like, it's already integrated in you. It's not something that you're moving towards anymore. So the things that you are moving towards are the things that light you up, that what activates you. So it's like, if you're looking now in this moment, it's like constantly being living in the moment, and not just like reminiscing on past successes or whatnot, but really always having that future oriented approach and being like, well, where's my energy going right now? So that's how you keep yourself in a high energetic state, when you're in that state of excitement and eagerness and anticipation and feeling of wonder and awe, and like, ooh, I wonder what's next, and like that higher energy of like joy and abundance and gratitude and appreciation and noticing, just being present essentially. Because if you you gotta like keep your mind in the forward oriented state because that's really where the juice is. And it's like this trail that you blaze, like your resume is like the trail that you've lived. And the story is still writing itself, right? Let the story write itself. And so with that I will finish off this episode 17 of Let the Story Write Itself, because literally you're letting the story write itself.